Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2021 Scholarship Breakfast. Thank you for joining us on campus today. This is actually the first year that we're hosting Scholarship Breakfast here. On behalf of the university, we are delighted that you have joined us. My name is Diane McNulty, and I'm the Associate Dean for External Relations and Corporate Development at the Jindal School of Management. As many of you know, the event is the school's annual fundraiser for scholarships. Over the years, the breakfast has raised over $900,000 for scholarships for our students, some of whom you will meet today. And we want to thank you for your support and your continued support. We are thrilled to host this event in person this year. It was virtual last year during the pandemic, and we miss seeing all of you. However, I would be remiss not to mention that 2020 Scholarship Breakfast raised more money than ever before and won the Marketing Event of the Year award from the Dallas-Fort Worth chapter of the American Marketing Association. Our team did it. Thank you. Our team did an outstanding job despite the challenges of the pandemic. Our donors and sponsors rose to the occasion, and the results were more financial support for our students when they needed it the most. So thank you everyone. I'm excited about our speaker today, Lori Ryerkerk. I know that you are as well. I'm going to kick off this morning by asking you to pay attention to the screens behind me. You're going to watch a short video produced by our social media specialist, Nicole Stacey. The video features just a few of the many scholarship recipients in our school. After the video ends, breakfast will be served, and after breakfast, our program will resume with remarks from a Jindal School Scholarship recipient, Rain Johnson. Rain is a junior information technology and systems student. She is a woman in STEM, just like our speaker, and one of many excellent students in the Jindal School. Enjoy breakfast, and thank you.
As an international student, the financial burden is always there.
I don't think I would be able to be here if it wasn't for that.
It's really helped me be able to not spend all my time when I'm not studying for classes working. It's allowed me to just get involved in campus more.
I truly enjoy really getting involved, getting to know people, and strengthening my relationships with people on campus and my professors.
You know, thinking back home, how hard your parents work just to put you through school here, just pushed me forward really hard. That's why at every stage, undergrad, first semester, I always try to strive for some assistance that the school can provide.
Scholarships play such a huge role in my university experience here. They allow me to dedicate more time to getting involved on campus and really making a difference.
Being able to just not worry about working or funding college just by working a lot has really helped me be able to give more of my time back to the campus.
I knew I was going to have to take a loan regardless because college is expensive, but because of JYSB I was able to not worry about that. We're very grateful. I mean, we're going to get our college degree and not worry about those debts later on.
I can really move forward and be able to grow as I go forward and do a lot bigger things without having to worry about student loans or things holding me down.
I can see that's a great investment, and it's not just for the student but also for the school itself and for nurturing the great next generation of business leaders.
my college life would have been so much different if I didn't have this opportunity. I know being here is a big blessing.
I'm very grateful for our donors here and thank them immensely for the time and energy that they put into making our school great.
Good morning. My name is Rain Johnson, and as Dr. McNulty mentioned earlier, I'm a junior information technology and systems student in the Jindal School. In addition to my classes, on campus I'm involved in several student organizations. I'm involved in the Real Estate Club, the Women in STEM Club, the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, the ASU, and our school's dance team known as the Power Dancers. I'm able to be a part of all of these enriching organizations due to scholarships. I'm so happy to have this opportunity to thank all of the donors on behalf of all the recipients. Thank you so much. I have the unique honor of introducing the Vice President and Chief of Staff at the University of Texas at Dallas, Dr. Rafael Martin. When I learned I would introduce Dr. Martin, I decided to investigate what the Chief of Staff does here at the university. Let me tell you, it's a lot. His responsibilities include making policy recommendations to the President. He also oversees the campus-wide administration functions, serves as a liaison with campus leadership, and assists with outreach for the university community partners and supporters like you all. Dr. Martin joined UT Dallas in 2003 and held several senior positions within the Office of Technology and Office of Research before becoming the Vice President and Chief of Staff in 2019. In 2020, he earned his PhD in Public Policy and Political Economy from UT Dallas. Dr. Martin's resume is impressive, but what I haven't mentioned about his journey is that he was a scholarship recipient himself. He understands how much it means to be given this gift, this confidence from a person you've never met telling you that your dreams matter and someone has your back. Those of us given the great privilege of scholarships feel this responsibility too. We feel the responsibility to go into the world to make it a better place, to reach our full potential. In learning about Dr. Martin's story, I'm inspired to reach my full potential. With that, I'm pleased to introduce the Vice President and Chief of Staff at UT Dallas and fellow scholarship recipient, Dr. Rafael Martin.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Rain. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize all of our scholarship recipients here today. So if you're a Jindal Scholarship recipient, please rise so we can recognize you. Thank you. So Rain and these other scholarship recipients remind me of something that Hobson Wildenthal, our former provost and a friend and mentor to many of us here at UT Dallas, who sadly we lost earlier this year, told me when I came to this university 18 years ago. He said, if you want to impress somebody who is not familiar with UT Dallas, put our students in front of them. These students demonstrate today that that statement is as true as it was 18 years ago. Thank you all for choosing UT Dallas, for becoming part of our community. And thank you also, and let me take this opportunity to recognize Aaron Robinson, who's here, joining us from the Dallas Independent School District. Thank you for sending us many of these students. We really value the partnership that we have with DISD and the students that we get from you all. So thank you very much. I also want to thank and welcome some special friends of the university here today. Sarah and David Martineau, Lori Ryerkerk and Mike Brody, and our lead sponsors for this morning's event, the Beck Group, Deloitte, and Lennox International. Thank you all for being here and for being supporters of UT Dallas. So if you're like me, this is the first kind of big event that I've been to back in person in a long, long time, and frankly, I didn't know how much I missed it until I got here. It's really nice. It's the first time in a long time that I've had a conversation with a group of people and nobody has uttered the words, "You're muted." So that's going to take a little getting used to, I think. So the building that we're in, it was made possible by a very generous gift by some special friends and alumni of the Jindal School, Nancy Gundy Davidson and Chuck Davidson, who've been great supporters of our institution over the years. And when this building opened, we envisioned exactly this sort of event for this. It's a place to gather, a place to celebrate. And since its construction, we have done that. It's been the venue where we've had our gala, where we've had graduation celebrations, and in fact, where alumni and friends of the universities have celebrated special events in their lives. So it's hosted weddings and bar mitzvahs and other special events. But I don't know that we could have envisioned what this building was or would be really over the last 18 months. Of course, we had to shut it down for these types of events, but it doesn't mean that we didn't utilize it fully. It became the de facto distribution center for a lot of aid to our students who weren't able to come onto campus. It was a place for our students to come and receive gifts for their graduation, to take graduation photos since we didn't have live graduation ceremonies, but we still wanted to celebrate and honor them, and this is the place where we did it. But really what excited me and really I thought was something that we could have never envisioned for this facility, but really speaks to the vision and what the generous gifts that Nancy and Chuck have made to this institution really mean, and you can't foresee until you're there. Earlier this year, we turned this facility, where you all are sitting right now, into a COVID-19 vaccination site in partnership with UT Southwestern. And from March until July of this year, we administered 49,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines with the help of 1,000 UT Dallas volunteers right here in this facility. So I really think that, it shows that when people like the Davidsons are generous and have some vision for a facility like this, you never know what's going to come out of it. And really, it's part of a tradition of leaders of our university that have shown vision, starting, of course, with our founders, Gene McDermott, Eric Johnson, Cecil Green, the founders of TI, the founders of this institution that really envisioned a university that would train top talent and serve North Texas through research, education, and cultural programs. And I think we're well on our way to fulfilling that vision. And now our students, like Rain, have a vision for their bright futures, armed with the knowledge and skills and relationships that they've developed here at UT Dallas. These are our future leaders, our entrepreneurs, our innovators, and they are the fulfillment of our founders' vision. And they're not alone. We're incredibly grateful for the engaged alumni that proudly support our university. Our alumni are now more than 124,000, and I am proud to say that I count myself among them. So if you're an alum of UT Dallas, please raise your hand so we can recognize you here. Thank you. Thank you for being here and being engaged with your alma mater. Your ongoing involvement strengthens our community and motivates us to continue to pursue our ambition to be a nationally recognized research university. And as I mentioned, we are well on our way. Over the past decade, we have been the second fastest growing research university in the nation, second only to UC Merced, and they don't really count because they only started 10 years ago, so they started from zero. We've done that without sacrificing quality. And in fact, our reputation has only grown with our enrollment. And nowhere is that more apparent than in the Jindal School of Management. In a very short span, the Jindal School has grown into one of the nation's foremost business schools, with many of its programs rising steadily in the rankings in U.S. News and World Report, Bloomberg Business Week, the Princeton Review, the Financial Times, and many others. And much of the credit for that astounding growth is owed to the vision and leadership of Dr. Hassan Perkul, the Dean of the Naveen Jindal School of Management. Dr. Perkul has led the Jindal School since 1996, 26 years. He's one of the longest-serving management deans in the country and is certainly considered the Dean of Deans here at UT Dallas, and I say that with confidence because I don't think there are any other deans here this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Hassan Perkul.
Thank you, my friend. This is a wonderful event. Like Rafael, I am so happy to be here and to see so many people here. It's been a year and a half of isolation and tough times, really, and it's so good to see people coming back to campus. Of course, we have been fully back now for quite some time, and our students and staff and faculty are here, but it's also great to see our friends to come back, and I see many friends around the room, and we thank you for attending, and we thank you for your support over the years. Without the support of our friends, many of the things we have done would not have been possible. This building would not have been possible, so we are grateful. You know, people ask, how did you cope with COVID? How are you guys doing? Well, guess what? I'm here to tell you that we coped with it very well. Credit goes to our students. We have incredible students. Credit goes to our faculty and staff. We had very few issues. The only issue we had was a decline in enrollment from international students because they couldn't get here. They couldn't get the visas, and therefore reduced income and slight reduction in our budgets. So that was the only issue. But you know what? It worked out fine because faculty couldn't travel to conferences, and since we had fewer enrollments, we had fewer part-time instructors, so it worked out well in the end. We really did not suffer through this. In fact, I can say we thrived through it because today we have record enrollments, record freshman enrollment this fall, almost record graduate student enrollment this fall, and we have a huge number of master students arriving for this spring. So come spring, we will be bigger than we have ever been, with great students. So one can say that we actually thrived through this, and we have taken market share because people could not adjust as fast as we can adjust. They can't expand and shrink. One of the secrets of our success is that when students apply, good students, we never turn them down. We take them. Why? Because we can expand our capacity to teach them. We are in DFW. We have access to great part-time instructors that we can bring in from the corporations surrounding us that many of our competitors at Urbana-Champaign or I don't know, College Station or places like that don't have. So, you know, I don't want to pick on Aggies today, so that's dangerous, but nevertheless, we are doing very well. As I said, we have been fully back and things are going well. So with that, I want to also tell you that our rankings continues going up. You know, it is now got to a point where there are too many rankings, and we can't keep track of it. And once in a while, we appear in a ranking that we didn't submit data for, you know. And when you see that, and you are in the top 10, top 20 of this ranking, you know you have arrived. So we must have arrived. I'll just give you the latest. U.S. Nielsen World Report undergraduate ranking, we are number 11 among public universities in the nation. Now, number 11, think about all the great public universities. And so I think that this is the best we have ever been on that ranking. Similarly, we are number 13 in the full-time MBA ranking of U.S. Nielsen World Report and number 11 in the part-time ranking, MBA ranking of that same, and number 7 in online ranking. So one can say we have been doing all right. So thank you for your support. Thank you. And, you know, I have to talk about our students. You know, I have to basically brag about them because they are, God rest his soul, as Hobson said, they are the best things about UTD. It's our students. They are great students, and thank God we are in such a great location that we have no shortage of students wanting to come here, great students. So with that, I want to just mention a couple recent successes. One of our students was an MBA student, was actually 2 of them, named Texas Hall of Fame scholars. That's a very prestigious scholarship, and very few schools get 2 of them. We have 2 of them. And this young woman basically came up with a business idea of facilitating food trucks and customers getting together, okay? And she actually got the scholarship with that idea, plus she went on and won another scholarship for the same idea from our big idea competition that we just carried out about, I don't know, 10 days ago. Now, another student, an undergraduate student, another talented young lady, she was named the Marketeer of the Year by AMA, American Marketing Association of DFW. So competed very well with many applicants or nominations throughout the Metroplex, and she was the winner. So we have great students. And, you know, my real purpose of coming up here is not to brag about us and our students, which I just did. My real purpose is to introduce our speaker today. So we are fortunate to have Lori Ryerkerk with us today. And she is, just looking at her resume and her accomplishments, she's an incredible woman. She sits as the CEO and the president of one of the largest firms in the nation, top 500 firm in the nation, Celanese. She was appointed CEO and president in 2019, May of 2019. And I believe almost a year after that, she was also appointed as the board of the chair of the board. And she has, Celanese is a big firm that is a chemical firm and special materials firm. And that's a huge accomplishment to run such a large firm headquartered here in Dallas. But I was far more impressed with the road she took to get there. She received a chemical engineering degree from Iowa State and went to work for ExxonMobil in a refinery as a technologist, as an engineer. And you can imagine that there weren't too many women engineers, chemical engineers, working in a refinery those days, and probably there aren't that many today. So I can't imagine the difficulties she's gone through, but she has thrived. She says she loved it, and she has thrived. So after 24 4 years in many different responsible positions in Exxon. She basically moved on to Hess, where she was senior vice president, and she oversaw operations, of 2 refineries, 21 terminals. Big operation. Later, she moved on to Shell, and she was executive vice president in charge of worldwide global manufacturing. 30,000 employees and contractors all around the world. She did that for about a decade, and finally she took her current job. So you can say she came through the refinery into the top of her business. Congratulations. So she also sits on the board of Eaton, and she's active in Beaumont, which is her hometown, in various, supporting various organizations in Beaumont. So without further ado, I would like to invite our speaker, Lori, to join us.
Well, thank you. It is such an honor to be here with all of you today, and it's great to see such a big crowd. It's really great to see everyone in person. I've done a lot of these things over the last 18 months, often over Zoom, and it's actually just so nice to have a live audience. It has been a really long and unusual 18 months for all of us, dealing with COVID, COVID recovery, COVID again, work from home, return to the office, go home again. It's getting hard to remember what normal feels like. And I know each and every one of you has had your own unique challenges with COVID, and every one of you has, during this time, whether you're a student, an educator, a civic or a business leader, it's been hard. And like me, I'm sure you've all experienced, as well as the challenges though, those moments of truth or learning that often come during periods of stress. And so today what I wanted to talk a little bit about is to reflect on my own experience over a 37-year career of dealing with challenges. First, the dean did, but I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. I grew up in Iowa. My parents were teachers. I was the youngest of 5 children. My parents did a great job instilling in all of us kids that education was the key to success. I often tell people I was a junior in college before I realized if you didn't get a degree, you weren't going to be a bum on the street. Because it's really what my parents stressed. But they also stressed the value of lifelong education. I graduated from Iowa State in chemical engineering, and I went to work for Exxon, as the dean said, at the Baton Rouge refinery. It was a different world at that time. It was 1984. And women in the refinery were very rare. But fortunately, I grew up with 3 older brothers, and so there was really nothing you could say or do to me at that point in time that would faze me or offend me. And so this resiliency came in very handy in my early career, and actually for the next 36 years of my career. In 1989, I'm going to skip forward a bit, in 1989, I was expecting my first child, when during a particularly harsh freeze in Louisiana, we had an explosion at the refinery, killing 2 people. And at that time, I was supervising a group of about 40 employees running the crude distillation units for the refinery. The entire plant had to shut down, but we had to be the first unit to come back up. Our operators were worried, they were tired, they were mourning the loss of 2 colleagues, and it was my job at the tender age of 27 to somehow get them to get the units ready for a safe restart. I couldn't do it based on my extensive 5 years experience in the refinery. I couldn't do it out of respect for my age or my position or my authority, and I certainly wasn't going to do it by how tough I was. So I had to lead from a place of empathy. I had to spend the time in the field, I had to understand their concerns, I had to remove their barriers, I had to be vulnerable to their feelings and to my own feelings at the time while going through that, while still keeping the goal in front of the team. People now call this servant leadership, but at the time, it was just about being human and helping people through a really difficult situation and helping them regain their confidence. So fast forward another 10 years and I'm living in Hong Kong, managing an electrical generation joint venture for ExxonMobil. I had a really small team, but I was one of the most senior people in Hong Kong at the time, so I was responsible for kind of all the employees in Hong Kong and the policies around that. So we ended up with SARS, the first one, not SARS-2, the first SARS. And I was there. People were getting sick. The hospitalizations and deaths were skyrocketing. No one knew the cause. No one knew the transmission mechanisms. The schools were shut down. Does that sound familiar to anybody? It was really uncharted territory at the time, and we had to develop protocols for working, for quarantining, for cleaning the office. Some companies chose to send their expats home. I chose to stay. Because during times of stress, you can't lead from behind, and you can't lead remotely. You have to be there. You have to know intimately what your people are going through. You have to be really transparent and honest in your communications about what you do and what you don't know. And you have to communicate constantly. I was telling someone previously, there's one thing I learned very early in my career, and you can do all the employee surveys you want, and what they will always tell you is, one, they don't make enough money, and two, there's not enough communication. You may think you are an excellent communicator, you may think you communicate a lot, I guarantee your employees do not think it's enough. But we had to do that constantly. Fortunately, SARS was actually more virulent than COVID. It mutated much more rapidly, and it mutated itself to a non-contagious strain in a period of about 3 months. So not the 18 months and counting that we're still experiencing. So now move forward again. It's 2005. I'm the refinery manager at ExxonMobil's Beaumont, Texas refinery. That's how it became my hometown. I had about 3,000 people on site. Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, and our sister refinery in Chalmette, Louisiana, had significant damage. In Beaumont, we took in our work colleagues from Chalmette who had lost their homes. We sent supplies over there for those who were working, and we sent employees to help with inspection and repairs. And 30 days later, Hurricane Rita hit us. We saw the trajectory of the storm about a week out, and we started our usual preparations. We've been through a lot of hurricane preparations in Beaumont, lots of tropical storms, and we really thought it would be the same. We'd get ready, it would turn at the last minute, and everything would be fine. But as the days went on, it became obvious that the storm was tracking directly for us, and we were in the eye of the storm. So I had to make the really difficult decision as the refinery manager to shut down the refinery for the first time in its 100 years history, to shut everything down, all the way down, utilities, lock the gate, and send my employees home in time that they could evacuate with their families. Most people thought I was wrong. I had my bosses telling me it was a bad decision. I had them telling me I was being soft. I had them telling me, you know, we never actually get hit. But I did what I thought was the right thing to do to get my employees out of harm's way and get their families out of harm's way. And I just couldn't take that chance. So that day I walked out and put the padlock on that gate and a bulldozer in front of the gate to further block it, was really probably the worst of my life. No, it was something you never want to do. And I stayed in Beaumont for the storm with about 20 volunteers, many of them my union leaders. We went to another Exxon plant further north on higher ground, and we rode out the storm in a blast-proof building. Did you know that blast-proof is not hurricane-proof? During the night, all of the windows were sucked out by the pressure differential of the hurricane. The doors blew open. We spent the night listening to things hitting the roof and the doors and the windows. Beaumont was in the eye of a Category 2 storm. We had winds gusting up to 160 miles an hour. The next morning, we went out into a city that was in shambles. Trees, debris across every road, roofs off the buildings gone and damaged, no power, no potable water, no sewer systems, and massive flooding. And the first people we sent back in the refinery had to do it in full Scott Air Pack breathing apparatus because we had no idea what had happened in the plant during that time. Fortunately, we had no major leaks, but we did have $60 to $70 million worth of damage from that storm. We had downed power lines, our cooling towers had the insides sucked out from the top. We had a crane that fell over on a pipe rack and took the entire pipe rack out, fortunately on a unit on turnaround, so nothing leaked. We all slept on cots that night in the refinery. And we began the long process of assessment and recovery. And we had the first barrels of finished product come across our docks in 3 to 4 days. That let us provide fuel to the community. And we started our utilities up in 10 days and the first crude in the unit at 13 days. We were the first facility in the area back up. And our folks really literally worked dusk to dawn because we had no power. So they worked dusk to dawn while we had light, and we brought people back as fast as we could house, feed, and toilet them. My biggest concern in the first 3 days following the hurricane, that was people would get dysentery because we had no suitable bathroom facilities. Most people had significant damage at their own homes, but they still chose to come to work. Why? The first reason is they had a purpose. They knew it was important to get the refinery back and running because we had built a cogen plant the year before, and if we could get that cogen plant up and running, we could actually provide power back to the city that they couldn't get from Entergy at the time because of all the down lines that Entergy had. So we could put that electricity in the grid. We needed to provide fuel for the police, for the fire trucks, for the ambulances, for the hospital generators, and it was important that we get back up and for people just to get to and from work. So they had a purpose. Second is we took care of our employee needs. In fact, the first thing we did following the storm is we tracked down every single employee in our facility to make sure they were in a safe place, that their families were safe, and did they need any immediate assistance. We sent crews out with tarps and wood and putty and anything we could find to make emergency repairs to people's houses because we knew they couldn't come to work if they were worried about getting further rain damage and further damage to their already damaged homes. We provided food 4 times a day for all of our employees who were working. We gave them fuel for their vehicles out of our refinery tanks. We brought a doctor in from Houston a couple times a week who brought prescription medicines and did minor work because people were having a hard time leaving. We paid people's families to stay away where they had evacuated and paid for their hotel rooms so people could be at work knowing their families were still in a safe place and taken care of. And we pretty quickly, and I think creatively, brought in a river cruise boat and parked it at our refinery dock. And we actually housed everyone who didn't have a home that was suitable to go home to. And in that cruise boat where they could have a bed, a shower, hot food, and a place to socialize at the end of the day. So we took care of our people. And finally, we were all in this together. I stayed. My union leaders stayed. I remember so clearly after one of our early briefing meetings, my union leader coming and sitting beside me. His name was Mark. Unfortunately, he's deceased now. But he said, Lori, whatever you need, we're here. I promise you we will have no grievances, no union issues. Just tell us what we need to do. That's what happens when you have a shared sense of purpose. And so we did. We had welders cleaning moldy food out of refrigerators. We had operators picking up, blown debris in tank fields. I was emptying the garbage cans. People just did what we needed to do. We met at least 4 times a day to update everybody where we were, what the next high priorities were. We were very open and transparent about what was happening. We had a board set up where we had the status of everything going on, and people could write other concerns or things that they had seen on their routine inspections. So everybody knew. There were no secrets about the state or where we were going. And we had multiple reviews. I mean, safety before starting up is a big issue after something like this. And so we had multiple reviews of everything before we started anything up, including letting our union leaders participate in all of the safety reviews so they felt comfortable about what we were asking their people to do. So it's a really long story, and I could tell you probably, unfortunately, hundreds of stories because I've been through every hurricane, typhoon, monsoon, freeze, hot weather, any kind of flood disaster. I've seen them all, not to mention refinery and chemical plant explosions and fires and all of that. It is the life in manufacturing. We start our best day is January 1st, and it only goes downhill from there because things happen. So let me get to COVID. COVID, it's unprecedented. Remember, I went through SARS-1, so SARS-2 didn't seem that big different to me, but it was different. It's gone on a lot longer. When we started COVID, I really thought it was going to be like SARS. I'm like, I got this. I've been through this one time before, and I assumed it would be 3-4 months and we'd all be back to normal. Well, it's 18 months and counting. The other thing that was different is it was global. We first saw COVID at our China facility, followed by Europe, followed by the US. It spread very rapidly global, which SARS-1 did not. And initially, although it was not as fatal initially, it was more contagious, and it's been definitely longer lived. We've also seen a lot more government intervention. We've seen lockdowns that didn't occur during SARS-1, more school closures, mandatory masking, vaccination, maybe soon to be mandatory vaccination. Who knows what's happening with the ETS. And you've all been through it, so I don't need to tell you that, and we've all been personally affected by it. And there were a lot of challenges and continue to be. How do you run a company remotely? We had to do it for a short period of time. More importantly, how do you keep people emotionally engaged and connected? Because we are a company that is about relationships. We are about collaboration, creativity. That's what we do. And how do you get people to do that over Zoom? You know, I have about 4,000 employees, though, who couldn't work from home. They had to go to the plant every day. They had to make the products that people still needed while they were working from home. They still wanted the products that we made and the world still needs. So how do you keep them safe and healthy? How do you know you're putting them, asking them to do something that the vast majority of people aren't doing? Their reality was very different when it comes to COVID than all of us who had a choice to go home and work remotely. You know, think about an operator. They're wearing a hard hat. It's 100 degrees down in Houston in the summer. They have a hard hat, they have earmuffs, they have long sleeve, long pant, FRC clothing, they have on steel toe boots, earplugs, and now they have to put a mask on. I can tell you when I go to the sites during COVID, like my ears literally hurt because I had too many things, including safety glasses, hanging off my ears at one time. And these guys and gals were doing that for 12 hours every day. And they couldn't take their mask off when they went inside. They couldn't take it off when they were outside. What we asked them to do was very, very hard. And we moved into 2021, and we saw a really sharp rebound in demand, which meant we had even higher production levels, which means our operators had to work even harder. They had to work extra shifts. We had customer service calls nearly doubled from 2020 to 2021. So all those customer service people who'd been working from home are working remotely. Now we're dealing with twice the volume, and guess what? They weren't able to manage it. And then we had a few other things happen in 2021. We had a freeze in the Gulf Coast. We had a typhoon in Asia. We had a Hurricane Laura that came into the Gulf Coast, fortunately not too severe, but we still had to prepare. And we've had massive supply chain disruptions around the world, which I know you've all heard about and are still ongoing. And then finally, China decided to enforce its dual energy policy in September of this year and try to make up for an entire year of overproduction in one month and shut everything down, which curtailed our rates. So it has been definitely challenging times for all of us. And I've had a lot of people, like the dean, people ask me, how do you manage this? How are you dealing with all this? It is just overwhelming, the amount that we've had to deal with over the last several years. And my answer is, yeah, it is, but I actually have the easy job. I have a good team, and I have great people, especially my people out in the plants. Because you see, I'm an engineer, and I grew up thinking everything was a technical challenge to be solved. And we can always solve the technical issues. That is not really where the problem is. A lot of you are business majors, and you probably think that everything can be solved by a good strategy, or a great analysis, or a really solid business model and a business case that you can present. And these are important for sure, but these are really insufficient to run a business. Because life is uncertain, and we can never anticipate all of the challenges and all of the opportunities that will come our way. In my 37 years, I have now come to one conclusion. Every problem we have is a people problem. People not understanding the goal, people not having the necessary time, talent, or training to do the job, and very rarely people being unwilling to solve the problem at hand. All problems are solved with communication. You see, people need to know what you expect. They need to understand the purpose of the company and the way that it's meaningful to them. They need to understand their purpose in the organization, how they fit into the bigger picture. They want transparency of data, of results, of the strategy. What is the future of the company, and what is their part in that future? You know, with COVID, we sent out daily letters, videos, blogs. We had shared photo sites of our pets, of us doing things at home, of us doing things in masks, anything to try to engage people. We had presentations for every employee where we would just answer questions, you know, live presentations. All our earnings information were available. Everything we told investors, we also shared with the employees, good and bad. And employees want that. They want to be engaged. They don't want to be talked to. They want to be involved in a discussion with their immediate supervisors and with others. They want to know that their views and their concerns are heard and addressed. And they need local forums and town halls with their most senior leaders to really feel like they're part. They want to know that their work matters and that they are appreciated for what they do and who they are uniquely as a person, not as a group, but uniquely as a person. In a global organization, it means you have to recognize that things are different. Asking an employee to work from home in China, where they might have a small apartment with multi-generations living in one room, poor computer connectivity, is much harder and much less appealing than asking someone to work from their 3,000-foot home in Dallas, Texas. A single person living alone, isolated, it is also hard for them. They need the social aspect of being in the office. We saw a huge increase in people reaching out for mental health assistance during COVID because the sense of isolation and dealing with the ambiguity provided by COVID was huge. There are all kinds of differences in background, life experiences, race, sex, sexual orientation. All of these things impact how people personally experience the workplace. And as leaders, our jobs are to create an inclusive work environment where people can bring their best selves to work every single day, where people are embraced and celebrate each other's differences, not merely tolerate these differences. That is our job. That is the hard work of leaders: communications, engagement, and inclusion. And this is the work that will make your company successful in both challenging and successful times. In fact, I believe that the most successful leaders are those that take the challenges and turn them into opportunities. It's an opportunity to show compassion. It's an opportunity to express your appreciation to those who do the real work, like those in the plants, those managing our supply chains, those dealing with very distraught customers because of all the supply chain issue. One of the things we did in our company is this year, we gave a 2-week bonus to every single person in the company who wasn't otherwise eligible in the bonus program. Just to say, so this is operators, this was our union members, these are the people out in the field, because these are the people who did the really hard work, but they're the people who don't always get to share in the gain. This is an opportunity to communicate openly and transparently, the good and the bad, and it's an opportunity to build trust and a shared sense of purpose. It's an opportunity to commit to an inclusive work environment and demonstrate that through your actions. It's not enough to talk about it. You need to demonstrate it through your actions every single day. If you have a leader who doesn't believe in inclusion, who doesn't walk the talk, you need to get rid of them and put in leaders that do, because that's what people will respond to. And of course, it's an opportunity to build excitement about the future of the companies. These are not soft skills. These are not feminine skills. These are not nice to have skills of a good leader. These are the skills that define a great leader. Because when all the employees feel that excitement, that passion, they share that common goal and feel like they are valued, that's when we win. So in closing, I just want to share one of my favorite quotes, one that I've shared with my teams over the years. It is by one of, I think, the most inspirational people of the last century, Nelson Mandela. And the quote is this: "There is no passion to be found in playing small, in settling for a life that is less than the one that you are capable of living." Thank you.
Lori has agreed to answer a couple of questions. So we have microphones in the audience, and I will ask that you keep your questions brief. She has a plane to catch. Question? Microphone?
Hi, thank you so much for speaking. Obviously not dressed for this. Did not know what this was. But my sister is a chemical engineering major in like A&M. It's too bad she's not here, right? But what advice can you give her to like rise as a leader like yourself? You know, like what does it take, to deal with, I would say like a woman in STEM, right? She constantly complains about it, like I hate this, Can you imagine? Her class is just full of guys and, sometimes it's tough. What advice can you give for her?
Well, I would say it's better than it is now than it was. I mean, I did grow up with mostly being the only one or the first or the one and only. Look, it is hard, but it's worth it. I mean, if you love STEM like I do, I mean, I wanted to do nothing but be an engineer. Exxon forced me to be a manager, which was a good thing. I'm not complaining, but I thought I never wanted to do anything but be an engineer. And so what I tell people is really a couple things. One, do your job really well. Because nothing sells like being successful at what you do. Like, do the hard work and should get results. Understand what creates value. I mean, I wish every engineer took business classes, and I wish every business person took a few engineering classes. That would be my ideal world. But just doing your job really well will always give you new opportunities. But I would also say women especially have a tendency not to stretch themselves. There's a sense of, I'll tell you, when I interview women, if I have a list of 10 job requirements, they'll be like, I'm not ready for this role because number 7, I don't have number 7. And I'll be like, yeah, I wouldn't be interviewing you if I didn't think you could do this role. And then I talk to a guy and I'm like, so why do you think you're qualified for this job? And they go, I got number 2. And I'm like, yeah, but what about the other ones? And they're like, yeah, but I got it, So, I tell people, put yourself out there. Like, if every time you take a job, if you aren't like having that moment of panic, like, oh my God, what did I do? There's no way I can do this job, then you've not taken the right job. You need to feel that moment of panic. I mean, our careers are like a muscle. You have to stretch it. You have to injure it a little bit, and then it will grow back stronger. And so I was lucky. I worked for a company, Exxon, that kind of forced me to do a lot of things that were outside my comfort zone that I would never have done. But by being forced to do that, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it great. I had so many opportunities presented to me, and ultimately I had to leave Exxon because I hit a glass ceiling, but I had so many opportunities that I would never have, I didn't envision myself being a CEO. I envisioned myself being, a nerdy engineer in an office. But, I had so many opportunities and I was forced into them, and that's what helped me grow. And that's my advice, is take risk, learn how to take risk, calculated risk. We're not risk for people, not risk for safety, but take risk, show results, and be willing to take that hard assignment. I lived 4 years in Asia. I lived 6 years in Europe. My son, when he was 18, had lived more time out of the United States than in the United States. I moved 16 times. I've had 24 jobs. You have to push yourself. I have missed a lot of birthdays, a lot of events, a lot of different things, but that's what it takes. And so my advice for a young person is find a good first job, something that really excites you. Work at it really hard, but then be willing to stretch and move beyond that into wherever life takes you, because none of us can predict, in my case at 20 when I graduated from college, where that's going to go.
It's great to see you here today, Lori. I'm a fellow Cyclone graduate, and but I'm curious. I'm fortunate because I'm a father of a young woman who also went into engineering and just got her PhD at the Johnson School of Engineering in mechanical engineering. And but I often see well, we know that the numbers of females in engineering are still way lower than they should be. And there's a lot of young women who, maybe in high school or middle school, maybe get just turned away from it. And I was just wondering and there's probably a bunch of parents here, excuse me, who need guidance on how to encourage young girls to go into engineering and why they should. I just got my master's in business in innovation and entrepreneurship here as well. So I'm a big fan of the business school, but I'm just curious what you think about how we can get more females in engineering.
Yeah, look, it's a great question. It's one I personally struggle with. I actually do a lot with STEM. I'm doing a lot through AICHE for Future of STEM Scholars Initiative, which is really about getting minority students and women into engineering. It's, look, it is, I'll say it's a societal problem. If you look at how girls are nurtured in school, I mean, they're not encouraged science and math. I mean, look, I started calculus when I was, like 15. And, I mean, I was a complete, like everybody's like, oh, that's just not becoming. I mean, I even had, when I actually dropped out of high school to go to college, and when I dropped out, I had a math teacher say, well, that's what happens when we let girls accelerate too quickly. Now, I didn't drop out to go live on the streets and do drugs. I dropped out to go to college, but but that's the messaging women get. My own daughter, so my daughter is 31. She got a degree in chemical engineering from Vanderbilt. Now she's a doctor, so she didn't actually work as an engineer. But but when she graduated from high school, when she was going through the college thing, her guidance counselors were still. She's like, well, I want to do engineering, and they're like, oh, you could do something else. I mean, that's kind of hard. That's really not for women. And she's like, do you know what my mom does? Like, because I was running the refinery at the time. I mean, but there's still those tapes out there for girls about science and math being hard. It's not hard, I mean, there's those tapes out there and those constances. How many TV shows have you seen about women being engineers? How many women have you seen on the cover of magazines who are engineers, right? You don't even see that many women who are business. You see, you see models and actresses. I mean, we're feeding the wrong tapes to our girls about what successful women look like and what successful women do, and the opportunities are out there. And then we get women in the workforce, and then we feed them tapes about, but you should stay home with your kids. And it's great if you want to stay home with your kids, but that shouldn't be the societal expectation. And then and some women, it's hard. Look, it's hard to have 2 kids. It's hard to have kids and work full time and, put in the time necessary to do both well. But it's hard for women to also see the rewards, because how many women CEOs are out there, right? There's 33 in the Fortune 500, and only 2 of us are engineers, right? So they don't see that path to success. They don't often even see many women in the companies they join. I don't know what the faculty looks like for UT or even A&M, but there's not that many women engineering faculty. So I don't know the answer, but parents can do a lot. Parents can do, I look back and I go, why did I become an engineer? Well, partly because I was the youngest child, and by a good ways. And so I spent a lot of time with my dad in the wood shop or helping him with the car or doing these things. And I wasn't afraid of mechanical things or getting my hands dirty. Now, I went into chemical engineering, but I think that had a lot to do with it, because at that point, as 5th child, my dad had given up. He's like, whatever, if you want to do it, it's fine. So I do think as parents, we can, because the schools aren't going to do it. I hate to say it, the schools are not going to do it. So as parents, we need to make sure we expose our girls to the really cool stuff that they can do, tearing things apart and putting them back together.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you so much.
We really appreciate your thoughtful presentation. I'd like to invite Hassan back to the stage if you'll wait a minute. And we have a small token of our appreciation for your presentation today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Lori, this has been a fabulous morning. Please accept my thanks and those of all of us at the university for that wonderful sincere presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will join me, I'd like for you to give Lori another round of applause. I have two important announcements to make. If you would like to take a walking tour of the campus and the Jindal School, please move to the right when you exit the dining room. If you want to find your cars, please move to the left. And again, my sincere thanks to each and every one of you for being with us this morning. We're so happy to be back in person and to have all the support of each of you. Thank you so much for making this a very interesting and entertaining breakfast.